Problems 32 and 33 on the mastery test have rational expressions in them. This first one, 32, we're going to have to divide. And so remember that when you're dividing fractions, you keep the first one the same way it is. You change your division to multiplication, and you flip your second fraction. As we do this, I'm going to factor so that we have this in a form that we can reduce. So I'll have 3, and then the denominator has a GCF of n, so I'm going to factor out the n and be left with n minus 2. I'm going to change my division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip. So n squared minus 4 is going to go to the numerator, and when I factor it, it becomes n minus 2 and n plus 2 over the numerator is going to slip down to the denominator, and here I have a GCF of a 3, so I'm going to factor out the 3 and be left with n minus 7. So remember that when you're canceling, when you're working with these fractions, if you've got a minus, that ties this together as a group. So I can't cancel these two n's here. This is a no-no because of the minuses that are involved. However, down here, everything's factored, and I can cancel. So I have an n minus 2 parentheses and another n minus 2 parentheses. I have a 3 here and a 3 here, so those are going to cancel out as well. So I am left in the numerator with an n plus 2, and in the denominator I have this n still there, and I have the parentheses n minus 7, and I can leave it this way in factored form as my final answer. You could multiply it, but then you risk making a mistake when you did that, so just leave it that way. When adding fractions, you need a common denominator. So here we're doing addition. And to get a common denominator, remember these are grouped there. And so my new denominator will be made up of a product of those. So x plus 1 times x minus 1 will be my new denominator. X plus 1, x minus 1. All right, so remember that when I change, though, and make a new denominator, I'm going to observe what I multiplied by. Here I already have the x plus 1, and what I multiplied by was x minus 1. So whatever I do to the denominator, I need to do the same thing to the numerator. So I'm going to multiply that by x minus 1, and I'm going to distribute, and down here I'm going to write 3x minus 3. I've got my plus here. And then for the second fraction, I had x minus 1, and what I multiplied by then, my new part is x plus 1, and I want to do the same thing to the numerator, so multiply by the same thing. So I'm actually doing this right there. So distribute, and I get 2x plus 2. Then to add, you keep that same denominator. So now my denominator is x plus 1, x minus 1. And I just add my numerator together, 3x plus 2x, combined like terms, that's 5x, and a negative 3 and a positive 2 is a negative 1. And this is my answer. Now, I put a couple more down here for you to try, so go ahead and give those a try, and then check them out and see how you did. So on this first division one, notice that I had the whole numerator cancel out. So I have to replace, I have to do a placeholder here of a 1 over, and then I'm left with the c plus 5 and the c plus 3. So now try your addition. All right, and then you see our answer here on this, 7x minus 4 over x plus 3 and x minus 2. If you have trouble, be sure and ask someone for some help.